to see at IoT, but in general, Cisco considers it to be bigger than IoT. And then, uh, um, did something happen? Okay, sorry. So Internet of Things is just a concept from Cisco that, in Internet of Things we were talking about just things to be the central aspect of generating data and all. But when it comes to Internet of Things, we also encompass people into it. So eventually those things are going to help people, that's clearly understood. But then also, encompassing more human processes into it, understanding more new types of data that actually involves transforming human lives, comes into the aspects of Internet of Everything. So this is the whole picture of Internet of Things, the family and all. So we are going to concentrate on the center one. So coming to our today's presentation, so we were going to actually look at the process of how a design and development process works when it comes to IoT or any other product. So usually you can go and see, and this particular pie chart is not going to change anytime soon, because this is actually what happens when you are developing any product, either you're in VLSI domain, either you're in software domain, whatever the domain is, the process moves in this way only. And I like to call it rip off because it makes it easier to remember. Now, research, ideate, prototype, optimize, and then the final delivery. Of course, this is a cyclic process, because once we deliver a product, we have to keep a look at it. So if there are any bugs or any problems, or maybe even if you want to increase the features that we were previously offering, for example, Amazon Echo was being continuously updated since the time of it launch. Initially, it launched without the support of Hindi language, but then eventually it was merged after some time. So, product development is a continuous process. It's a cyclic process. So eventually, you're going into the same phase. So what we are going to do is we are going to start from the research aspect. Although we are not going to do the research here, but we are going to start from that, and then we'll see how we'll go on to the next step when it comes to an IoT device and all. So it's easier to remember whenever somebody wants to remember a design process and not able to remember it, just remember rip off and it's a whole lot easier. So let us assume, as I already told in the beginning of presentation, that we are not going to actually make something, but we are just going to assume that we are making an application and we'll see how to make one. Although I can give you a bit of guidance also, but I don't think that's required here. So let's say we were doing some sort of research, and this is what usually goes at the beginning of making a product. You just don't think of an idea and just go and start making it. What usually happens, if you are having some idea, and I should go and do some research and try to find those people who are going to be actually the consumer for that idea. So that is very important when it comes to designing a product in any field. So let's say we did some research and people were saying that, we are having a lot of smart cars today and all, but we purchase our vehicles way back and we don't have any smart technologies with us. So we just want a way to see that if our vehicle sets in motion, so we should be notified that our vehicle has been turned on, or maybe our vehicle is moving. So for example, a scenario where somebody has parked his or her scooter outside of the apartment, and some thief comes and tries to turn it on and then decides to go away. Although we are not making a complete application, we're just thinking of it. So the people want us to make a device that actually can just sense. We'll keep it very simple. So not going into the other aspects, we'll just think that we want to something that actually senses if the device is moving or not, and then just give us some sort of notifications that we should be able to get that somebody is taking your vehicle away, even if that someone is you. So this is what we want to make. And apart from that, as IoT usually enables us, so with the power of technology that we have today, I could have taken that simple data to see something. I can see the data and infer something from it, but machine learning and other algorithms and the other analytics part helps me to actually see those trends also, which were not obvious, right? So we can also detect events like crash on. So, and we are just going to keep it simple, so we'll just focus on the first part. We just want to see if it's moving or not, and we'll leave the part 2 and 3 to you guys, so that you can try it later on. So that was our setup. Now comes the first step. After research, now we are on the second step, sorry, and it's ideation. where we are actually thinking of how we are going to move forward when we are going to make this application. So we understand that we are going to make something that is going to monitor some parameters inside of vehicles, and that something should be able to send it over internet, so that we can have it anywhere, right? So if I'm not closer to my vehicle, I'm not in a location close to my vehicle, so then also I should be able to get a notification about it, and obviously that would involve internet, because I'm not going to draw wires. Although some might consider that they can, make a small radio network, and that would also work. But once you are, let's say, 100 of kilometers away from your vehicle, there's no way of, using it. Although radio communications longer than that range are possible, but then those are very custom, and I guess that would require a lot of efforts from your side in terms of money and all. So the easiest possible way is, of course, to see an IoT device. So it actually, the application that we consider actually makes a good recipe for an IoT device. So yes, now we are at the conclusion that we need to make an IoT device that is going to monitor some parameters, send it over to internet, and then we are going to infer some results and send it to the user, so that he or she can, infer from that data. So we come to the next step. Now we are looking to make a prototype. See, the first stage was we did some research, we got a product or an application. For example, you might be in research domain. So this is usually the first step, that you research what kind of problems are there, and then you choose that you're going to work on it. So we have already done that part. We've ideated that what's going to be the next thing, and we know that it's an IoT application at our hand. So we move on to the next step, where we want to actually make a working prototype of that, that can actually deliver that concept. So for example, if you'd like to pitch your application to somebody so that they can fund you, so you actually want to make a basic or a rough or rudimentary presentation of that, so that you can actually present to those guys, so that you can acquire some funding. Usually that's how it works in the startup domain. So now, as in the second point, this is usually where we start feeling pressure in IoT, because you might have seen in the past few days there are lots and lots of variety when it comes to prototyping. You can have various ways to go, various ways to make whatever you want to make, but obviously there's one best way, and then there are not so best way, but each and every way which lets you prototype something is actually better. So we'll go on to the next step, and this is where comes the architecture. Because we understand we are going to make an IoT device, we first come up and see that what's the usual architecture when it comes to an IoT application. So this is an upward going triangle, and it's showing the flow of data. So we have a device, the device that we are going to place in vehicle, that gets connected to some networking thing that actually makes it send the data to internet, that helps, for example, a Wi-Fi access point. And then we go on to the cloud part, where we have some analytics or other services that we want to do some operations over the data and store it for later usage. And then the application, the final application that the user sees. So for example, it might be a mobile application where he or she might be getting an intuition, sorry, notification for the events happening at the vehicle. Simply put, although this is an open looking diagram, it looks like that the diagram is progressing in one direction, but this can be cyclic too. So in a case, it might happen that you are the one having the IoT device just placed near to you, and you are the one using itself. So sometimes it's just cyclic also. So we have kept a general approach here. This is a very basic architecture, and it will fit in all the pictures, in all the architectures that you might have seen, or you are going to see in future. So this is the most basic thing, and this is very easy to remember also. One more important part, if you'll see that I have written local decisions at the IoT edge device. uh, those who are not familiar with the word edge, but I'm guessing that you all are, edge actually refers to the end of all the devices. It's actually near to the user. So we are actually talking about devices that are placed very nearest to the consumer. Those devices are called or thought of as edge devices. So we can have data inference at two levels. Either we can have some insights of data on the device itself, which is measuring the data, or near to the device using a central device, or maybe at the cloud. So these three terminologies actually define the three paradigms, very popular paradigms. You all might have heard of it: the cloud computing paradigm, the fog computing, and the edge computing. Now, all these are a little bit differentiated, but yes, they all exist and they have their own relevant applications. So if your data is not very sensitive, or if you are generating very large amount of data that needs to be processed, and you do not care about latency much, so cloud computing is the best option. And it will be the most cost effective too, because actually if you are going to leverage the power of a cloud computer, you can actually make the end device a whole lot smaller. A less capable device will easily do. But for example, in applications where you want where you are very focused on privacy, for example, you might be having some image processing based IoT application where actually you are actually monitoring the faces, and the people do not want that facial data to go over to a remote server. So you might be doing some processing at your own end. So you'll be placing a central device that actually does that processing and all. So that will come into the paradigm of fog computing. So fog computing basically is cloud computing but away from the cloud, in simple words. Then what is edge computing then? So edge computing is, it's a forward to fog computing. So in case of fog computing, you could have placed a central device for, let's say, 4 units or so. There are 4 big systems that you are actually monitoring, and they all communicate to some remote server, which is obviously the part of that particular industry wherever the device is deployed. So that will come into the perspective of fog computing. But when we talk specifically about edge devices, so uh, we are most closely situated to the data that is being actually generated. For example, we are performing some decisions at an agriculture. Let's assume that there is an agricultural site where we are having a lot of sensors deployed that are taking this, getting the data of soil moisture, what's the nutritional level, and all those things. And based on that, the device there itself takes a decision that whether to water the field or not. So this would come under the approach of edge computing. So these are very important words when it comes to IoT, but these are we just had a little bit of idea of that. So now there's one important questions which see that nobody usually asks: why are IoT device constrained? We usually talk about that we are going to make an IoT device, it's going to be very constrained and all and all and all. So why is that particular case? It usually happens that we want to deploy IoT devices. We want to make devices for a lot of things. There are a lot of things, let's say millions and millions of those. So we do not want to make big devices that are going to consume a lot of power, that requires a lot of money to be purchased. So obviously we want smaller solutions. Of course, we might be placing those solutions at places where it might not be possible to retrieve them. So then also we want to have a cheaper solution, and we might be looking at applications that do not require much of processing power. For example, if I'm just sending a single data, that won't require much processing power, and if I'm not doing any computation, I can go even lower. So these kind of devices actually need to be very small. For example, if if I want to measure a temperature of volcano, so I'm not going to make a very large device and just drop it over the volcano, so that with time it gets destroyed. Eventually it's going to be destroyed, because anything that working near volcano, one day or the other, it's going to be destroyed. It usually happens. So we want these sensors to be cheap. Maybe we are placing some application to a place where we do not have enough space for it. For example, I wanted to place my sensor inside of a car, so I do not have very huge amount of spaces available there. So I want to have a very small device, and all this leads to very small devices. And when the devices are small, then they start getting constrained in the other direction as well. So if the processing power is small, so we are not going to be having a very big device. Also, we are not going to have a huge amount of memory where we can actually do a lot of work or have a lot of storage. Also, our networking capabilities will be, much more smaller than what we usually see in our homes. So all this goes into, the thinking that these devices are constant because of these reasons. So that was just an overview. So until now, we have just come up with a thought that we are going to make an IoT device, we are going to take some data and it's going to work. Now, I'm going to draw a rough sketch of what's my system going to look like. So this is a four-stage process, as I've taken it directly from the architecture itself. So the device will be having the sensor, it's going to have the processor and the software stack, which is actually going to pick that data up. Now, after the device, I'll be needing a gateway or some access point using which I can connect to internet and send my data to it. Then I'll need some remote cloud storage capability where I can store my data and retrieve it later, or maybe do some other operations on that. And then in the last, I need an application where the user will actually be able to, see whatever the device is inferring. So this is the basic architecture that now I have drawn from the previous knowledge that I had during, the research and ideation phases. So now we have the requirements that our device needs to be, obviously it's small because we are going to fit it into vehicle and the space is not much. We just want to collect data, and we need to keep the power consumption as low as possible because we are obviously going to take power from the battery placed inside a vehicle, and we do not want it to be discharged because of our device. So whenever you start making an IoT device, just make sure to have a model of TCP/IP networking stack in front of you, because it helps a lot in making a lot of decisions. Because we are now going to choose what is the communication protocol we are going to have, what is the processing platform that we are going to choose, what is the physical communication protocol that we are going to have, and other things, right? What is the cloud that we are going to use, because there are a lot of options available to us. So we are doing looking for some quick prototypes. So see, just remember that we are going to come back to this TCP/IP network stack again and again. This is a 4-layer model, we all know about it, and we'll just get back to it once we need it. So now I can start thinking about my device. So the first aspect is to make the IoT device itself. Then we will start thinking about how it's going to network to internet. Then we'll choose the cloud partner, and then we'll think about the application. That's the flow that we are going to have. So our IoT device is going to have some computing power, some electronics that actually measures and all those things, and then the software that is actually going to have this network stack, as well as the command operations that we are going to do, and the code that is going to interface with the sensor, so that we can fetch some information from it and we can upload it over to internet for further inference. So these are our requirements. So this is what we are going to make. Now, the first choice. So obviously, the first thing that we should select while making an IoT application is the choice of the application layer protocol, the protocol that lies at this particular layer. So this is the choice that we should make first, because a lot of other decisions will depend on it. So we have a lot of IoT specific protocols and even non-IoT specific protocols that can be particularly used in our applications. And I guess you might have seen a lot of this, and like HTTP, COAP, MQTT, XMPP, AMQP. These all are examples of IoT specific protocols. Although HTTP is not an IoT protocol, but now we are going to see in some time in future the second version of HTTP, and it's going to be much more designed towards these kind of applications too. So actually, CoAP is like a little brother to HTTP. It's a cut down version of HTTP. MQTT is something else, and I guess you all know about it because the previous session was on this protocol itself. And then we have the other choices. So we have so many protocols. How are we going to choose one? So each protocol is having their particular benefit, and they can be deployed in different situations. But if you want to select a specific protocol and you are actually going to send your data over internet, then you must see how your architecture is evolving. So in our case, we were actually making the device to directly connect to the cloud. There is nothing in between. So we have our IoT device which takes up the sensor data and sends it over to internet, right? So what usually happens, we want to choose a application layer protocol that is actually cloud compatible. So by compatibility, I mean that they should be able to understand it. Otherwise, you will not be able to send any data to them. So HTTP and MQTT are the most widely understood protocols, and almost all the cloud operators that I've seen up till now only implement these two technologies. I have not seen any other implementations of any other technologies. They might be proprietary, that's why I haven't seen them. But in general, all the public cloud platforms that I've seen and I've used only use these two protocols. But then you might think that if HTTP and MQTT are the only options, why do the other protocols even exist? So they have their own use cases. For example, uh, let's say if I'm going to deploy hundreds of sensor in a agricultural field, and then I'll have a central device that actually communicates with them, and this central device actually sends data over internet. So then I can use a different protocol to communicate locally. QoAP seems to be very suitable. Even I have seen a lot of commercial products that actually use QoAP for the devices that are actually located inside your home for home automation, and then there is a central device that actually communicates with them, because QoAP actually makes device discovery a lot easier in comparison to MQTT. In some cases, it can even overperform to QoAP. It's under stands for Constant Application Protocol. So basically, I'm not going to detail of these protocols because I understand that you have already seen a lot of them in the previous sessions. So I'm not going to discuss too much. I'm just giving you an overview. So basically, in local networks, I can use a different protocol, and then I can use a different protocol to talk over internet. But in our case, we're just directly communicating. We want to keep it as simple as possible. So we have two choices to make. Either we can go with HTTP, and either we can go with MQTT. And I understand that you all understand that MQTT is way more better when it comes to sending messages from constant devices, because once a connection is made in MQTT, the device actually maintains the device can actually maintain the sessions for very long periods of time, even for 6 months or maybe 7 months or maybe even far greater than that. I've not heard about bigger sessions than 4 or 6 months, but yes, very long sessions are possible. In HTTP, it's just simply not possible. So by session, I mean that the device reconnects again and again. In case of MQTT, you can have a long TTL, and so you can work very well in intermittent network conditions. For example, you place your sensor at a remote location where the network connectivity is not good. So MQTT will be a better protocol for that, because HTTP will eventually fail there. And one more thing is that if you are going to just send small packets of messages, if you have a very small data to send, then also MQTT is highly optimized in comparison to HTTP, because currently the header sizes are different. So the basic size, the smallest size that an MQTT packet can have is way lesser than what an HTTP packet can generally have. And it is because it was actually made for sending documents over internet and not transmitting messages. The biggest implementation of MQTT that you can see commercially is, I guess, Facebook Messenger. It actually uses MQTT behind to communicate. So if you guys are using Facebook Messenger, you're definitely using MQTT in your daily life. One more thing that MQTT is very good at is that it has the concept of QoS built in. QoS stands for quality of service. So it actually makes sure that this is actually at the protocol level. It's not at device level. So the software stack actually tries to make sure that you are guaranteed some sort of quality of service. And then there is something very specific which is not present in HTTP, is the last will and testament feature. I guess you all have an understanding of this. And one more fun fact, that the current version of MQTT is version 5, and you might have seen it or might not have seen, I don't know. But MQTT version 5 has made a lot of changes into the previous MQTT protocols. The last version was version 3.1.1, which was actually the version 4 of MQTT. So even the application that we are going to make today, or with the example we are taking, actually I was just considering the MQTT version 4 because I haven't experimented a lot with the MQTT version 5, but I can tell you can head over to internet and search about it. And actually MQTT version 5 encompasses a lot more things than it actually used to do. So it's quite a big update and you can check it. So in all, after comparison, at least I find that it's suitable to use MQTT for our application because our cloud partner, whomsoever it's going to be, it's going to definitely support MQTT. I'm going to use very less amount of power when I'll be using MQTT. I can maintain longer sessions even if my device is not able to get internet somehow in between. Then also I can guarantee some sort of quality of service because the protocol gives the facility for that. And even if the device gets disconnected accidentally, or due to some issues, there is a last will facility as well. So my end devices will actually know that something has happened. So these kind of things are, they can be implemented in HTTP too, but that is definitely difficult. And obviously, you cannot optimize it more than a particular level. So we are going to choose MQTT. Now, since we have made the choice for application layer protocol, now the next thing is to choose the physical protocol. So this is the actual signaling format that is going to carry our packet data. So the most popular physical layer protocols for Internet of Things are Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, um, GSM, 3G, 4G, etc. Even Ethernet when you have wired connection possible. So these are the most popular ones, right? There can be others as well, right? Defined in different standards of IEEE, but these are the ones you are going to mostly see, right? Even in commercial products, these are the most dominant ones. And the other reason is most of these applications, not all, especially Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, actually even I guess Zigbee also use the ISM band, and it actually makes it easier for you to develop applications because you are not required to have a license in that. So obviously these are the most popular protocols. Now, in our case, I'm going to use Wi-Fi, and I'll explain a little bit later why. Uh, but I just want to tell you that the better decision would have been to use a GSM or 3G compatible device, because usually if you are going to place it on a vehicle, it's going to be difficult to permanently give a Wi-Fi connection to your prototype, right? But since we are talking about the rapid prototype aspect, so we can just go on with Wi-Fi because that's the easiest way to connect. Because the other reason was that I do not have a 3G module available with me right now, and Wi-Fi modules are way easier to get, and also they are way cheaper. And the other thing is that you can easily find a Wi-Fi connectivity nearby to connect your device to, so you can easily give internet to it, like turning on a Wi-Fi hotspot on your phone. So it makes prototyping a lot easier. Actually, the choice of this protocol is not the physical protocol is not necessary at the prototype level. You can actually, it doesn't actually make any software changes, and we are just currently focusing on the functionality in that. If I feel that I should use something else, I can just simply choose that technology without changing the software stack much or the functionality much. So we'll go with Wi-Fi in our case. Right. Now, the third choice is obviously what's the prototyping platform going to be. So we have a lot of options here as well, right? You guys have already seen, I guess, Arduino boards. These are the most popular ones. Raspberry Pi,
Sir, your voice is not coming, sir. हेलो सर। हेलो, आवाज आ रही है?
हेलो। 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 शरद, शायद तुम्हारा नेट कनेक्शन चला गया है।
No, sir, I'm connected now.
पर
It's working properly.
अरे आउट क्यों आ रहा है तुम्हारा?
It's the feature.
मिड से अब तुम वापस ज्वाइन हुए हो?
हाँ सर, अभी है।
हाँ हाँ, अब आ गया है।
ये actually मैं उसके बाद नहीं देखा। सर, ये कितने दिन पहले हुआ था?
ये 2 या 3 मिनट पहले जस्ट अभी मैंने देखा।
Okay, I'm really sorry.
हाँ, उसके लिए वापस लिख दीजिए।
Sir,
Okay, I'm really sorry. I think we got disconnected.
हेलो।
Uh, yes, sir. So, am I
हाँ,
audible
यस
right now?
यस यस सर, ऑडिबल।
Yes, sir. So actually, I'm seeing my own presentation.
हाँ,
This
इसमें
that's why
दिक्कत हो
there's
रहा
no way to
था। दैट्स द प्रॉब्लम इन
tell whether.
दैट गूगल मीट के
Yeah,
अगर आप आउट हो जाओगे तो पता भी नहीं लगेगा क्या होगा, वो चलता रहता
I was literally giving presentation
है।
and
हाँ
I
हाँ।
didn't even know.
लास्ट
Okay, sir.
स्लाइड।
I'll just
हाँ, लास्ट स्लाइड।
yes, sir. I'll just continue. So this was the last slide, sir.
Which one? You start presenting now.
Okay, sir. Sure. I'll just start from the this one. Because after making all the decisions, we have chosen an accelerometer for us.
Sir,
We have
your
just
slides are not visible actually.
so it's
आउट
not
हो गए थे
visible.
आपकी साइड स्लाइड चलेगी, वापस से प्रेजेंट नाउ करना पड़ेगा।
Sure, sir. So is it visible now?
Yes, is it? Yes.
Okay. So we'll just go from this slide. I guess I was here 2 minutes back. So we have just made the choices for the development platform that we are going to use. We have made the choice for the protocols that we are going to use. We have made the choice for the sensor we are going to use, and this is the final recipe for our edge device. Right after this comes to this the stage where we are going to, no, we are not going to do it, but we actually write some small program and then just read that data and start sending it over to internet. But before that, now comes the important aspect. We want to choose a cloud platform where we are actually going to send our data, right? So when it comes to cloud platforms for IoT, where you are actually going to store your data, I have skipped the networking portion because I'm just assuming that in our case we have some simple Wi-Fi access point. It may be your phone or maybe other Wi-Fi router in your vicinity that's going to act as the gateway for our communication. So we directly go on to the point of cloud. So when it comes to cloud platform, we have a lot of options and they are suitable for different needs. But going through this myriad huge amount of data is usually very difficult, but choosing a cloud platform is very crucial to your application, and it usually depends on the type of operation that you are going to perform, right? We have AWS IoT, that's Amazon Web Services, the Azure IoT, the one from Microsoft, Watson IoT, the one from IBM, ThinkSpeak, Ka IoT, Eclipse IoT, Akamai, and so many others. There are so many services that once you start seeing them, you'll be amazed to see that there were so many platforms that you haven't seen before, and they are good for a lot of things. Now, when choosing a platform, now we must understand what is the type of application that we are going to have. Now in our case, that I just wanted to be able to send data to some server where we can actually see that data, and we can have just simple actions. I am not going to do some complex operations over that, so I can have a decision based on that. Even at this point of time, I'm not looking for OT update facility or any other thing. But in short, there are a lot of options you can go through. I'm not going to compare all the options, but I'll just tell you what is my usual preference. My usual preference is AWS. It's one of the best platforms. It's very complex to use if you are a newcomer. If you are going to sign for Amazon Web Services now, you're going to see a lot of services, and Amazon's offers the lot of flexibility too. The highest amount of flexibility in any IoT platform that I've seen up till now is offered by Amazon itself. They actually offer a 12-month free plan. There are a lot of Amazon services that are going to be free in that 12 month, and you can actually use them to build your own applications. Now there are a lot of components when it comes to AWS. There is some IoT stack, then there is something called Greengrass, then there is called something called Lambda functions, then there is something called EC2, then there is called S3 bucket, and there are a lot of things. You can do a lot of operations, and actually you can deploy your entire IoT application over AWS itself if you want to make something specific. So, and the best part, it's very secure. Security is built into the platform itself. So usually I'll go with this platform if we needed to make a complex application. But to keep this session simple, I choose my second favorite, and that's ThinkSpeak. I've been using this platforms, I guess, since last 6 years or so. And this is actually a very good platform when it comes to IoT, because this is very beginner friendly. You'll just open up and you will see that you just have to do a very small amount of options. You just need to configure a little bit and you are good to go. And the other best part is, initially ThinkSpeak was independent, but later on it was acquired by MathWorks, the same company who makes MATLAB. And so you can actually have MATLAB based analytics. So if you're actually good in MATLAB, you can actually use ThinkSpeak to perform some analysis on your data. But obviously, like the MATLAB license, that is not cheap. So obviously you have to keep that in mind. But obviously this is a very good platform, and it provides very easy integration to third-party applications too. Now we come to the very important aspect of the user application. User application is going to be the application which is going to be at the end of user, where the user is actually going to see whether or not they are having some event related to the device that they are having. So in our case, we wanted, whenever our vehicle makes a movement, it sends a data over internet, and then that data is being processed by the ThinkSpeak application, and then it creates an event which actually tells us that our car is moving or our vehicle is moving. So the most easy before that, we would have gone for making a custom application. In this case, for example, we would have we could make a simple Python program. We can place it over a server, and then we can have a custom application of our own, or we can make a custom server of our own, or we can do something in AWS. But the most easiest way that I see for beginners is IFTTT. If this then that, this is a service that you can easily use to make something that acts to an event. Basically it lets you create event based on other events. So for example, if my device is sending some data, it detects something, so it will create another events. For example, it will create a notification at your Android phone. So IFTTT actually offers an Android app and an iPhone app as well, which you can directly install. You can configure your account and you can head over to IFTTT. You can make some adjustments and you're just good to go. It's just a 3 or 4 step process. It's very simple to do. So this is our overall structure now. So now we have the selections for IoT device. We have the gateway, we have the cloud platform, we have the IEEE service, and then we can just implement the user side notifications. This is the whole flow that we have gone through. It was very tedious, but I guess it's well worth doing when it comes to designing an IoT device. So as we can see, it just summarizes all the things. Actually, I have installed the IFTTT app over in my phone. If I'd like to see, I'll just point it over to you. Okay, I can show it. Mm, mm. See, IFTTT is very simple. See, this is IFTTT's website, so you can actually head over to IFTTT, um, and you can see that we can have some actions. So this is actually my account, and in free account we can actually have 3 actions possible. So I'll show you how we can create a very simple action, because I wanted to show this because it's actually very intuitive. So I'm already having 2 applications. So this was the one that I was experimenting with for this particular session. We can actually create a new one. So for example, I just have to click on the create button, and then I just need to tell if this. So this is the condition that's going to happen. Then what's going to happen? So there are 2 steps. So if this, so what I'm going to say is I want some URL to be hit by some event, and then I'll take some notification type of action. So webhooks are the way. Webhooks are basically a simple service. So as it's saying that if you call a certain web URL, it's going to send some sort of notification into your phone. So this is this is it. So you can just choose webhooks for this. So you'll have to select the webhook service. I guess I've already exceeded. Anyways, uh, I'll have to add that trigger later on because I've already exceeded the quota, I guess, because I've already made my own service. That's why it's not letting me to add one more. So I can show you in this one. So this one is a simple app and it's showing the status is connected. So, I can demonstrate you later. Anyways, that's not going to work because I've already configured that. Anyways, so this is a simple process. And now we have the device in our hands, and it might have started working if you have already programmed it. Okay, so now comes the time of testing. So this is the O in the ripoff series. So we have already done the research, we have done the ideation, we have done the prototyping, and now we are at the optimization state. Now what we can optimize, so these are the things that you should look for when you are actually going to deploy something into field. So for example, the application that I was preparing till now, I wasn't thinking about security too much about the and because obviously in a case of IoT, data is going to travel over internet, and you obviously want that it should remain secure as possible. So nobody else should be able to see that data in between, or maybe some malicious site. Your node should not start hitting a malicious site, or maybe some malicious user can use your IoT node. So security is the first aspect that you should start thinking about when you start about optimization. Then you can think about power consumption. So power consumption is very easy to do. So when I was actually programming this application, actually I made a sample program too. So when I was actually programming this application, I had not done any optimization, but I could have included a sleep schedule for the ESP32, where it can actually sleep for those particular duration when it detects the device is not on. And as soon as the MPU 6050 detects some motion, it will send some interrupt signal to ESP32, wake it up, and then it will start sending data over internet. So you can use that for saving power consumption. Then I can think about OTA updates. Actually, once the devices are deployed to remote fields, you cannot just go over and plug it to USB and give some updates if there are some bugs or you want to add some features. So you'll have to think about that. There are a lot of providers that actually provide this service, but you have to think that at the development level itself. You can change the protocol if the need be. For example, if I think HTTP will suit better after a little bit of testing, I can change it to that. Or maybe I wanted to use GSM instead of Wi-Fi, and then I should obviously make the cost optimizations and then the aesthetics and all. This is the last step, and then we have the final delivery. So this was a very tedious process that took some time. We did some research and a lot of things, and finally I guess I'm at the end of my slides. So thank you for hearing me out. I'm not showing any practical demonstration because I thought that that was already covered in the previous sessions, and this session should just serve as a simple reminder of uh, how we proceed into doing things. Anyways, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you,
If there,
sir.
yeah, if there are any questions, I can
If
have
any
them.
people have any doubt or any questions, they can answer or they can
ask through this microphone or chat box. You can write there.
Yeah.
Any participant?
I guess there are no questions. It was pretty clear. And anyways, if anybody has a question, they can connect over to LinkedIn. They can easily find me. I am Sharad
Yeah.
at LinkedIn or maybe anything else. You can also email me at uh, integration of Adafruit with IF triple T. Actually, this is very interesting, and this can be easily done too. Yes. You're asking about Adafruit's integration with IF triple T. You can head over to Adafruit's website. They have actually provided a very good tutorial on this, and yes, it's actually possible. If you might have seen, even Adafruit has its own IF triple T service as well. If you've seen the IF triple T portion that I was showing, so there was an IF triple T service from Adafruit as well. So yeah, it's possible and it's easily doable. You just head over to Adafruit's website, and they have a very cool tutorial for that. Any other question? I've used both, but not understanding major difference. So I'm not able to understand. Do you want to understand the difference between Adafruit's website and ThinkSpeak, or Adafruit and IF triple T? Hello. Okay, you want to understand who is triggering the action. Okay, this is very easy. Actually, I've not shown you. Actually, I prepared a program for that as well, but I guess there wasn't enough time. I thought that's why I didn't show you. So basically, what happens? For example, I'll just show you. So I have a basic setup here. If you can see my video, I don't know if you can see it or not. So I have a very basic setup here. So basically, this is my ESP32 that actually connects over to internet to some cloud service, which in your case can be Adafruit. And at Adafruit send, you will have to configure some service that will actually send some signals to IF triple T's platform, and then that will trigger some action. So in my phone, I have actually installed the IF triple T app also. So basically, you get a very simple Android app like this. If you can see, so this is an Android app from IF triple T. So this app actually receives notification from Adafruit's platform. Adafruit platform receives data from my ESP32, and then I have some service at Adafruit's end where I can configure this. So when I was using ThinkSpeak, there are two applications at ThinkSpeak. One is actually I'll show you actually this. So I'm sharing my screen once more. Just give me. See. So I was using this particular service, ThinkSpeak. This was my data vehicle move. Actually, I had done some experimentation too. So the data that you are seeing on screen is actually was pushed by this device. So before starting this session and showing you all these steps, I actually made the device myself, and it actually works. And someday, if you'll find time, I'll show you the demonstration as well. So basically, this is the place where I'm getting my data. So these charts are showing the X and Y axis accelerometer data that I received from my device. And as you can see, the timing is October 17, 12:01. Before starting the session, I just tested it. So what happens once I receive the data here? Now I can see a few services that are offered by ThinkSpeak. So in our case, we need two services. The first one is the React service, and the other one is the Thing HTTP service. So in the React service, you actually create a service which actually reacts to some condition. So for example, in my case, I was just observing the y-axis data, and whenever the data is greater than 10,000, I will send some request to the Thing HTTP application, right? What does the Thing HTTP application does? So yeah, so the Thing HTTP application sends a get request at this URL, and this is actually the IF triple T URL. So actually, I made an IF triple T small service where if this condition was that if this URL is triggered, I will have some sort of notification. If I'm not wrong, it should work in this way. So if I'll just copy all this and paste into my web browser, right? So if my system was working fine, see, I have received congratulations, you have fired a movement. And if somebody heard this, actually I received a notification from IFTTT. I guess you guys cannot see it, but actually I received a notification from IFTTT saying that the vehicle was on move on October 17th. So I can just refresh this web page, and I have again fired the event, and see I received a second notification too. So this is very easy when you use IFTTT, right? So this URL is being called by ThingSpeak service. The ThingSpeak service only triggers when I have send a data to cloud, and if that data satisfies a condition. So for example, my accelerometer sends data over to cloud, and whenever that y-axis data is greater than 10,000, it calls this particular URL, and a particular action is triggered over to at my phone. So actually I can see if I so this was it. If you want to try it, I can actually help you to build this application. It actually works, right? So is there any other question? I guess I have answered your question. Do you have any other query? Oh, pleasure is mine. Anybody having any other query they would like to ask? See, actually I configured my device to send data over internet. So if I'll go to, if everything is working fine, I'll start seeing data over my channel. So I have a lot of channels, right? So I've just now switched on this ESP32 that I was having. It is now connected to my phone. As you can see something written, especially I know you cannot see the phone screen. So after a few moments of, I think 5 minutes or so, it starts transmitting data over internet. But in the meantime, if anyone would like to ask a question, it's fine. Okay. Does anybody else have any question? I'll keep seeing if I receive a data in between. Yeah, if anybody would like to see the program, I have the program as well. So this is the program that I have written. It's just a simple Arduino program. I guess you all guys learned about the ESP32 device as an edge device, right? So you might have done some Arduino core based programming, or maybe programming some other ID, right? So this was a simple program, and these are my credentials that I was using to send data over to MQTT. I'm over to ThingSpeak via MQTT. So yeah, is anybody having any other question?
So no one have a question now.
I guess this is it then. If anyone would like to ask me any question, they can email me at d1@creatindia.com. I'll share my details with sir if you would like to interact with me later on. I can tell you how to make this device at your own place, or maybe any other IoT application that you would like to have. I guess sir, we are done for now. I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, sir, for having me here.
Yeah.
It was very nice to have a discussion in between after so
We
many
want
days.
that. Yeah, we want that we should consider the 2 sessions, but because of some limitation of this
Yeah.
AICTE,
So
we have to
actually,
finish early.
originally I prepared a different application for
Okay.
the sessions, because I was having actually 2 sessions.
Yes, yes,
But
yes, exactly.
day before yesterday, you told me that I'm going to have a very
Ah,
single session. So actually, I worked the last 2 days creating a new slide. So this
oh,
was an entire different presentation from the one actually I actually planned.
okay,
Uh,
okay.
that that was an actually I planned an OpenCV based machine learning IoT model. So I
Okay.
was demonstrating the same process with using that application.
So
So it
in
was
next course, we should give you the two
definitely, sir.
extra slots
Definitely,
for that.
it is a very nice application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sridhar. Thank you so much
Thank you, sir.
for sharing your time with the participants.
Sure,
I
sure.
hope I'm sure that they will get some new information about this IoT and practical aspect of these IoT systems.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sharad.
Okay, okay, sir. Then I'll end the session for now, right?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for hearing me out. And anybody, if they are having any doubts, they can just ask me. They can head over to LinkedIn. You can connect me there. This is my LinkedIn also. If you'd like to note, I am Sharad at the end of your LinkedIn.com, or you can mail me at the1@cratindia.com, and I'll be available to you for any kind of help that you require. Anyways, thank you so much, sir.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Thank you,
day, sir.
Sharad.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys. Bye, sir.
So participants, we have finished this FTP programs with the 14 sessions. We have completed all the sessions successfully. And thanks for participation and thanks for your kind support for this. So as I told you, we'll have a special session for this quiz related to queries. So we'll start this as soon. If anybody is available, please write on a chat so that we can start this our discussion on the quiz. If anybody,
सर एक प्रॉब्लम आ रहा
yes,
है
yes, ma'am, बताइए.
मैंने एक्चुअली पूरा अटेंड कर दिया है लेकिन उसकी जैसे क्वेश्चन रास्पबेरी पाई बोर्ड है माइक्रो प्रोसेसर या माइक्रो कंट्रोलर
हाँ.
तो मैं माइक्रो प्रोसेसर पे टिक किया था लेकिन वो गलत दिया है ठीक है
हाँ,
ऐसे ही एक क्वेश्चन था जिसपे ब्लूटूथ है ना तो इसका मैं लेकिन उसको फिर भी वो गलत करके और मतलब मार्क्स डिडक्ट कर रहा है
अच्छा, आपकी आवाज मैडम बहुत
मुझे
क्लियर
लगता
नहीं
है कि
एक मिनट मुझे. हाँ, मुझे मैडम एक्चुअली क्या किया है
मुझे
हमने
लग रहा है
5 जो
फॉर्म बना है
हाँ GPI is very confusing. Okay. तो मैडम एक्चुअली we'll discuss all these things. We keep जहाँ पे आपको डाउट था वो हम मार्क्स हटा देंगे उसमें से और जो चीज हमें लगता है कि ठीक है वो हम क्वेश्चन में सेलेक्ट कर सकते हैं इसलिए हमने 25 क्वेश्चन दिए हैं आउट ऑफ 25 हम 5 क्वेश्चन कोई भी हटा सकते हैं अपनी मर्जी से कोई दिक्कत नहीं है तो in last score we will not consider that 5 questions if anybody has doubt और अगर क्वेश्चन गलत हुआ है तो कैंसिल तो हम बस 5 मिनट और तो वेट करके फिर ज्वाइन करते
ठीक है
हैं
सर
और जो भी डिस्कशन है वो कर लेंगे ठीक है मैम जी थैंक यू
So we are going to meet at 2
No,
o'clock.
within 5 minutes we'll finish this task as soon as possible because अगर हमारा मैं सोच रहा सेशन ही अगर लेट चलेगा तो मुझे ऐसा लगा था पर सेशन अगर खत्म हो चुका है तो अपन शुरू कर देते हैं बस 5 मिनट में मैं वापस से ज्वाइन कर रहा हूँ आपको शरद ने ज्वाइन किया शरद
Hello, sir.
yes शरद
Actually, I just forgot at the end of the session, I was actually showing some data
okay
and I forgot to show it at all. So actually, for those guys who wanted to see some data coming, I just connected my ESP and as you can see, it's actually pushing data over internet. You can see the thing moving, right? It's actually pushed a new data.
शरद वापस से प्रेजेंटेशन शुरू करना
सर मुझे टीम्स की आदत थी सॉरी इसमें मुझे बहुत कंफ्यूजन होता है एनीवे सर yes sir I'm just turning it on. I'm really sorry guys turning back in but actually I forgot to show you the data and I just remembered it when I had a notification on my phone. So actually I was just showing you before ending. So this is actually the ThinkSysSpeak platform and my device is actually currently putting data over it. As you can see, this is the x-axis data I've received just now at 1:43, right? And this is y-axis data. And for this data, I'm actually currently receiving because I've set the value to 14,000 in case of y-axis. So it's triggering just about every time because I'm having the raw data from accelerometer. As you can see, now again I have a new data and after a few seconds you will see a new notification appear here. You can also hear it too. See, this is a new notification. So I just purposely set it so that every time it's sending a new data over to cloud, I'm just having a new notification. So I just joined back just to show you this because I actually forgot to do so. So anybody who would like to try this application can just connect with me and I can show them. So this was it, sir. I'm really sorry to just interrupt in bit, but I had to show this. Anyways, I'm done. If anybody like to see anything else, I can just help them afterwards. Okay. Okay, sir, I'll leave now. I guess sir is not here. So in between, if anybody would like to ask any question, I can just answer it. Right now, I'm continuously receiving notifications because my device is actually on. I'll just turn it off. As you guys can see, I've just plugged out my device and I was receiving data up till. Yes, sir. Sir, I'm done now, so you can continue. I've just
ठीक है सर,
shown
ठीक
them.
है,
Okay. Anyways, sorry for barging back in, sir. But anyways, thank you so much, sir, for having
ओके,
me here. Thank you so much, guys.
थैंक यू।
Vaibhav sir, you are mute. You are mute, sir.
Yes, can I submit the answer of the question now? Yes, 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 yes. एक मिनट देख लेता हूँ।
डिस्कस करना है क्या वैभव
हाँ
सर?
मैडम, बस 2 मिनट में शुरू करते हैं। Oh, sorry. So participant, let's we discuss this quiz. So is it visible?
Yes, sir.
So let's one by one question. We'll discuss the question. The question one is Arduino has. So you have to answer कि Arduino. एक second.